There's a lot of talk about Greenland, for example. Now, and I know there's a lot of freakouts, and of course I would never support taking it by force. But I do think it's I do think it's a responsible conversation if they were open to acquiring it and whether just buying it outright. I mean, if anyone think that's bonkers, it's like, well, remember the Louisiana Purchase? Oh, I think Alaska was a great deal too. $50 million, I think it was. It was referred to as Seward's Folly, and now that was Alaska now. So, I mean, open to having all kinds of conversations as well. And now I don't think it's not helpful to freak out, but some things might work out, some may not, but that's part of an ongoing dialogue. But he hasn't even taken office in 2 weeks. And, we really need to pace ourselves if we're going to freak out over every last tweet or every last conversation or press conference. But that's
good. That's a good one, John. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like we are here to work together. Yeah. And some things we can agree or disagree. But I think that's how DC works. There's a lot of
and actually, I made a video on this. Probably a month ago. I don't know. It's been a little while. Some of you may remember this video. And it was a video where I was talking about how much sense John Fetterman actually is making. I know it sounds crazy, right? On its surface, we're agreeing with a Democrat, but no, John Fetterman is not your typical Democrat. I'm telling you, he isn't. And we're going to get into that a little bit in this video here today, because it seems as if the only member who has had a stroke, it seems, or is still recovering from a stroke, I should say, is the only one that makes any type of sense. Legitimately. John Fetterman is literally the only Democrat in the Senate, in the House for that matter, who makes any type of sense. Any type of sense. And this man is recovering from a stroke. And yet, time and time again, I find myself agreeing with this guy. Why? Because one, I'm a sane human being, and I can see past the R and the D next to people's names, and I understand that just because they have a D next to their name doesn't mean we're always going to disagree, or just because they have an R next to their name, some of these folks really aren't Republicans. They're closer to a D than they are an R, but they just happen to have an R next to their name. Mitch McConnell, excuse me. That just came out. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, I want to show you guys this video of John Fetterman and a senator by the name of Katie Britt, okay, I believe out of Alabama, on Fox talking about some common sense, because boy, do we need some more common sense in this world. With that being said, let's dive in.
Illegal aliens who commit crimes must not be released into our communities. Our colleagues can't even use the term of art that's in the statute. Illegal alien. They can't even use that.
This is a great boon to those for-profit detention companies who make enormous profits from mandatory detention.
Well, the Laken Riley Act passed today.
Who make enormous profit from mandatory detention. What about all of the non-for-profits who were sending millions of dollars to solve the homeless crisis? What about all of those folks? There's literally a video online of a woman who gets asked what her job is and how much she makes. There's a woman, and she answered it by basically, obviously, by saying that she works for a homeless shelter, whatever. And the lady asked, "Well, how much do you make?" And I believe the number that came out of her mouth was $240,000. Yeah, I may be off on that number a little bit. We'll say 200 plus. That woman makes over $200,000 in a non-for-profit to solve homelessness. Right. I can almost guarantee you that problem will never be solved. Anyway, carry on.
In the House, named, of course, for the woman who died in Georgia, February 2024, at the hands, authorities say, of an illegal immigrant. That passed 264 to 159, 48 House Democrats It requires federal detention for illegal immigrants guilty of theft crimes. Senate action on that bill is now pending. It's time for our Common Ground segment. Joining us to talk about the Laken Riley Act and other things, Alabama Republican Senator Katie Britt and Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman. Thank you both for being here again in Common Ground. Why is this important, and how confident are you about the Senate action here?
Yeah, so I think we've seen this litigated over the last 4 years, time and time again. And I think on November 5th, the American people delivered a verdict and said, we want secure borders. We want you to prioritize the safety and security of Americans over open border policies. And so this is a common sense piece of legislation, obviously named after a remarkable young woman that was taken from this earth way too soon. And I think that the bipartisan support that you saw in the House, I am really hopeful will carry on into the Senate, and we're already seeing good traction from our Senate colleagues interested in coming on board.
Senator Fetterman, there are Democrats, obviously, who spoke out against this today. One of them, Congressman Raskin. Take a listen.
Pick a crime, paste into it a template immigration law covering convicted criminals, and then require detention or deportation of certain persons merely accused of committing the crime or arrested for committing the crime. No due process required at all. This allows us to get up and demonize immigrants.
So what do you say to that? You've signed on to this.
Well, they already broke a law by coming into this country illegally, so I mean, I should say this. I'm not surprised somebody like Jamie Raskins stood up and said some bullshit like that. I'm not shocked. But carry on.
Oh, well, I mean, I have a lot of enormous respect for my colleague in the House, but I just happen to disagree on this. And for me, just like my friend and colleague in the Senate, like, it's really common sense. And I'd like to remind everybody that we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of migrants here illegally that have convicted of crimes. And why, I don't know why, you know, who wants to defend that, to allow them to remain in our nation through that? And now, if you're here illegally and you're committing crimes and those things, I don't know why anybody thinks that it's controversial that they all need to go.
Do you think that this was one of, if not the biggest issue for this election?
Well, I think if we can't, you know, there's 47 of us in the Senate, and if we can't pull up with 7 votes, if we can't get at least 7 out of 47, and if we can't, then that's the reason why we lost. That's one of them. That's one of why we lost, in part.
Go ahead.
Brett, if you think about that.
And I want to point something out. Look right in front of John Fetterman. You see this tablet right here that's in front of him? He's reading off of that. I forgot. I think there's something to do after he had the stroke. Like, I want to say it's like an issue with his hearing or something. So he has to like read the words first before he responds. Right. So this man, one, is recovering from a stroke and still has obviously some issues. So much so that he has to have a screen in front of him to read the words in order to answer the questions. And he's the only Democrat, elected Democrat, that makes any type of sense. And you can see him reading off the screen right now as Katie is talking. Look at his eyes. He's looking down at the screen to read the words going across the screen. And this man is the only one that makes any type of sense. I got to give him credit. I got to give credit where credit is due. I don't agree with everything what John Fetterman has to say or everything that he votes on. But I got to give credit. If all Democrats were like this, I think America would be, a phenomenal place. We wouldn't have the crazy BS going on that we have happening right now. Not saying that I would vote for them because there's still some things that we will not agree on. But in terms of just this Looney Tunes, crazy stuff, we're going to vote no on deporting illegals who committed crimes type of stuff. You wouldn't be seeing that from Democrats. You'd have Democrats like John Fetterman. Oh, man. Anyway, carry on.
I mean, that's what he's saying, needing the 7 votes to be able to debate this bill. And I think the American people have already answered that question. They have said, we want you to find ways to have common sense bipartisan solutions to help us secure our border and keep our country and communities safe. And so I'm hopeful that our colleagues will come together and say, let's talk about this.
Well, I mean, I've been in this same chair, and I was arguing about a year ago saying that, you can be pro-immigration, but we need a secure border. And we have a serious issue here on the border, and we have to address that. And here we have now. We can be pro-immigration, and I really believe we should protect the dreamers. But I don't know why it's controversial that we need to deport any migrants here illegal that are engaging in kinds of criminal activity. I don't know why that's controversial to anybody.
So this starts, if the Senate passes and it gets eventually to the president's desk, a process on the immigration, but on the bigger, broader economic aspects of it, which would require funding, there is this debate of whether to have one big, beautiful bill, as President-elect Trump says, or whether to have 2 bills to go at it. Do you have a sense of how that's going to go?
So obviously we've seen that the president talked about one big, beautiful bill, and at the end of the day, we're going to do whatever it takes to produce results for the American people. There's a lot that we've got to do when you're looking at the border, when you're looking at energy, when you're looking at creating a strong defense, and when you're looking at creating economic prosperity for all Americans. And so whatever road gets us to that result is the one that we're going to take. We're excited tomorrow night. Senate Republicans will get to visit with President Trump, and we'll get to talk about the best pathway forward. And I think we're all eager to get working and to actually produce results for the American people.
Senator Fetterman, you've met with a number of nominees already. You've suggested...
just did one of your former colleagues here just about 3 hours ago.
Is that right?
Sean Duffy, actually.
Oh, Sean Duffy.
Yeah.
Senator Warner, the chair of the, co-chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, met with Tulsi Gabbard. He said he had a session with Ms. Gabbard. He went on with a lot of questions. He's still got a lot of questions, and that we have to do a process, a beginning of a process, suggesting that there's a long way to go. Is this Tulsi Gabbard one of the nominees that you could vote for?
Well, I met with her. In fact, I think I've met with virtually all of them. And the ones that I haven't, they're on my schedule, RFK and Governor Noem. So I'm happy to meet with all of them. And that's also part of this. I don't know why that was controversial. I mean, I got a lot of blowback just, even to meet with them. And to me, I see that as just doing my job. And I'm going to have a conversation with anyone that would like to have a conversation with me. And if someone believed everything that's been written or said about me was true, I mean, you can't possibly know me, or I think I could know her either, just based on someone read. But I want to sit down and have a conversation, and I'm really glad that I've done that. And some of these nominees I'm going to vote for already. In fact, whether it's our colleague Rubio, our Representative Stefanik, or even Sean Duffy, I expect to vote for him as well too, and Brooke Rollins for agriculture. Yeah. So there's a lot of them I can say right now here on Fox. I'm going to vote for them. But there's others, but that we're going to go through the process. But I'm open to hear from everyone, and I don't know why that's controversial. And I also would like to remind everyone on the Democratic side, that's the way democracy works. Trump won, and now they're going to run the table, and so they get to pick those kinds of people. And if you don't have to agree with all of it, but I want to find a way to work together on a bunch of them.
And I want to commend him on that, because that's the way it should be. Article 2, Section 2, sitting down, asking questions, understanding the vision, understanding what they want to do for the American people, and John giving them that shot, and they have to answer his questions, but that's the way that it should be done.
Absolutely. It's 1000% the way that it should be done. But of course, Democrats, they're hypocrites. They're hypocrites. If Kamala had won, they'd be screaming to the high heavens, "Oh no, you guys got to vote for our, or meet with our people, blah, 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 blah." But the moment Trump wins, then all of that goes out the window, and every single person on the Democrat side, minus John Fetterman, of course, is a no on everything. It's just a no. No, 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 no. Nope, 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 no. Just because Trump picked them. I thought you guys wanted to work together. They're always bragging about working together. Chuck Schumer stood on the House floor and talked about Republicans shouldn't just ramrod things through. They should create bipartisan bills and whatnot and work together and all this other stuff. But when it's time for Democrats to work with Republicans, all of that talk goes out the window. Quite interesting how that works. So honestly, I don't think that Republicans should work with Democrats. Give Democrats the same treatment that they've always given us, or at least more recently have given us, and stop the games. Stop the games. Give them the same treatment until they learn their lesson to stop with this BS game of, oh, we're holier than thou and we're in power. But the moment that Republicans have any type of control, oh, F you, F who you want to have, whatever bill you want passed, we're all voting no on everything. No. Give them the same treatment is what I say. But what do y'all think? Let me know.
Let me ask you this about the press conference today. You know, obviously the American people voted on the issue of the economy, on the issue of immigration. Did you think that they were voting for taking over Panama or getting Greenland as a part of the U.S.?
So, Brett, what I think they did vote for is regaining American strength, that peace through strength, that respect in the world, that regaining our footing to where our allies respect us and our enemies fear us. They want to make sure that we get the hostages back in Gaza. You know, they want to make sure that the Abraham Accords are not only there, but are expanded on. And they want us to regain our footing. And so that's what you saw today, was a reshaping of that and an America starting to lead. And I think you'll see that from President Trump.
You think there'll be more?
Hey, listen. I'm all for taking the Panama Canal back. I'm all for Greenland. I'm all for renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. There's more American shore on, in the Gulf than there is Mexico shore. So I'm all for it. I'm not against it, right? I don't think we should necessarily start wars over it, but hey, I'm all for making America strong again. I'm all for that. I'm all for making America an America that, other nations, especially dictator nations, fear. I feel like that is important. I feel like that there's value in having, especially dictator nations, fear where we come from, which is America. I think there's value in that. A whole lot of value in that. Like I said, I'm not saying that we should just go around being bullies all the time, everywhere, Hey, give us this or we're dropping bombs on you. I don't think we should be going that far with it. But I do want us to get back to a place of strength where we're seen across the globe as strong. So, yeah, I'm all for, Panama Canal, Greenland, Gulf of Mexico, right? I'm all for these ideas. Now, do I think Trump is seriously going to pull off all of this stuff? No, probably not. He'll probably pull off a couple of them, there will be more ideas as well. Sometimes this is the thing with Trump. And I said this early on when he first launched his campaign. This Trump is a Trump 2.0. This guy is very strategic. Sometimes he'll say something not to necessarily mean that he's going to do it, but he wants some other country or some other people to think that he's going to do it and for them to change whatever it is that they're doing, right? For example, hey, I'm going to pull out of NATO. Oh, well, we'll up our payments, okay? All these other nations, we'll up our payments, all right? Don't do that. He had no intentions of pulling out. You know what I mean? It'll be like a little something like that, right? Where Trump is very strategic and he'll say something just to get people to get in line, fall in line. What are you doing? Because he knows that people are watching and listening to everything that he says. I mean, he has the biggest megaphone of all megaphones right now. Whatever he says, it's amplified times 1,000, so everybody gets to hear and see what it is that he had to say. So sometimes he'll just say something just to get people to move. And they do. And so he gets exactly what he wanted. Oh, I think these folks here should spend more on their defense budget. Hey, I think I like that land over there. I think America should take that. Oh, well, we're going to increase our defense budget over here. Okay, well, thank you. It's exactly what I wanted y'all to do. You know, stuff like that, man. Trump is very strategic. We've seen multiple examples of that over the past year where, you know, he's been very strategic. So I don't expect all of this stuff to happen. Some of it, like I said, is just for strategic purposes. But once again, shout out to John Fetterman, man, the only Democrat who makes any type of sense. Crazy to say that because he's a Democrat who is recovering from a stroke. Quite wild. But shout out to John Fetterman, man. Peace and love. I'm out.